Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's February 16th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss news of the day, presented as always by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, kind of mellow day today. I mean, you know, the way they've been for the last 3 months, if you compare to those, you know, not a whole heck of a lot to talk about or going on today. So we'll probably keep this one pretty short and sweet. But let's start with our CaneSport TV interview of Wesley Basaint. And this is a kid that is kind of going to be on center stage in spring practice. Miami needs linebacker help really, really bad. You got new coaches coming in, clean slate for everybody. So it really doesn't matter that he's a true freshman. He's going to get to compete as if he's a senior, quite frankly. I mean, the coaches coming in know that they need help at linebacker. They know they need fresh blood. They know the linebacker play was not good last year. And I got to think Wesley Basaint, when you look at his athletic ability, could end up being center stage as a true freshman.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't even the biggest story. I infiltrated the LifeWallet headquarters. That was me on that video. You know, it was like stealth mode. You know, you had to. I got my fingerprints done. I got the whole biometric scan to make sure I wasn't bringing any external devices. Met John Ruiz. He actually was a very nice guy. He really was.
That's right. This is the first time you've met John Ruiz.
Yeah, never met him before.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, listen, the people who work there are super nice. They really are.
Very nice, very professional,
very
beautiful.
Yeah, big. It was an interesting organization. Now it is the office is a fortress. I wasn't exaggerating. You have to get through like 2 layers of security, get escorted around the building, but whatever, that's okay.
Going to the White House, it's hard. It is hard to get up there.
Yeah, it's like proprietary stuff, so they obviously don't just let anyone in, which I don't understand how I got past the security scans. Obviously, they have a lapse in their system if they let me in. The background check,
no doubt about that,
reevaluated. Personality profiles need to be reevaluated. A lot of problems with the security system there. But I will say, I was introduced to John Ruiz. Shook my hand, very similar to an Orlando Franklin handshake. For those of you that have never shook hands with Orlando Franklin, do not shake hands with Orlando Franklin. It took me about a week to recover from that. Big hands, big grip. And his first thing he said to me, what do you think the first thing he said to me? Do you think he said, great coverage of the team, Matt? Or, oh, so nice to meet you, Matt? What do you think he said, Gary?
The time is now.
No, he said, where's Gary Ferman? He seemed very disappointed to see me instead of you. But you know, I explained you had some obligations, some family obligations, I guess, as they turned out, and you know, exchanged a couple of pleasantries and moved on about my business. And Wesley Basaint was there, you know, sort of his first life lesson, so to speak, I guess, LifeWallet lesson. I don't know what you call it. And he was basically tutored on what NIL is, what his obligations are, how to correctly be a movie star, apparently, because that's the way they treat these guys. Like they're going to be movie stars down the road. I don't think I could do what these guys did. I could not sit there. First of all, I couldn't get makeup done because I'd be hideous. You know, I'd be like, why are you wasting your time?
Cool, right? Like
why are you wasting your time on makeup with me? I don't need makeup. There's nothing you can do to my face that's going to make it any prettier than it already is. Hideous. You can't fix hideous. And then on top of that, every enunciation, pronunciation, denunciation,
they're learning how to be actors. They're learning how to speak for the camera.
It is hardcore. I listen. I don't know how these kids do it. One of the kids said he had a meeting with his coordinator. He had to get going, and they're like, okay, and they just kept on working with him. You know, so this is their obligation, right? It's a push and pull because they have their football obligation and they have their NIL obligation, and they're going to butt heads sometimes. And you know what? At the end of the day, the NIL obligation has to take precedent because they have a certain amount they have to do or Miami gets in trouble and the kid gets in trouble. And yeah, he's got a meeting with his coordinator, but all you got to do is say to the coordinator, listen, I had an NIL obligation. And the coordinator is just going to say, oh, I understand. That's like the only excuse that's going to get you out of trouble now. So, oh, I'm so sorry I was late to the 5 a.m. workout.
But tell me the truth. You were impressed, right? By the operation.
Oh, super impressive. Yeah. Super impressive. No doubt. But yeah, I mean, if you're late to the Aaron Feld 5 a.m. workout, it's I had an NIL commercial. I just shoot it at 4 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. Sorry, I was late. What's he gonna say? Like,
And look at the marketing that Life Wallet is getting from all this. I mean, it's like it's a real marketing program. I mean, you couldn't buy all the publicity they're getting.
Yeah,
from.
And it's honestly smart. I for just kicks today, because I had a minute free, or yesterday rather. Sorry. After the baseball availability, I just sort of looked up, because it's MSP Recovery. I didn't realize that was sort of the parent company of Life Wallet, so I just looked it up, and I found this interesting item. Lionheart Acquisition Corporation, which is on NASDAQ, LCAP. The stockholders are approved to extend the completion date of the company's business combination with MSP Recovery to August 18th from February 18th. So that's what some of these people have been talking about, saying there's this deal in the works. So I guess he's got till August 18th. And that's why this makes sense for him to really promote the company, to let people know what it is, and hopefully show the shareholders of this other company that he's got a viable venture that's going to work out. It makes a lot of sense for him to do it. But after August 18th, he better still be doing it.
Yeah, they need him to.
He makes his $30 billion.
There's a long list coming, man. I mean, it's like there's been a lot of talk about building a stadium and all that. Before they build a stadium, I think the University of Miami would like to build a new football complex on campus.
Yeah.
And, they need the support of people like John Ruiz to get that done. They're looking at very quickly erecting a football facility that's as good as any in the country, along the lines of like what Alabama has, what Clemson has, what Georgia has. And, they're going to be going to people. Somebody was telling me today that initially they were taking donations for the construction of a new locker room and stuff, and that the goal was to raise like $3 million or something. Well, apparently now the goal to raise money for a new locker room for this year is now up to $10 million. And
that's just for James Williams' locker. That's not even including everyone else's locker.
No, it's for a temporary locker room for 2 years, because in 2 years, I know they're going to be hoping to be in the new building. So, just big things going on at the U. This is not a joke anymore. I keep telling this to everybody. I mean, you're going to have the whole vision is going to come into play. You're going to have upgraded facilities. I think you're going to have Alonzo Highsmith in the building as a GM. I think you'll still have Ed Reed. Obviously, you've got Mario, a new coaching staff, which is elite and certainly a huge upgrade.
By the way, not to cut you off,
which I think is all over the place. But go ahead. You must have something important to say.
I never cut you off. Well, it's in the flow of the conversation, so I feel like I should mention. You and I both know Roland Smith very, very well over the years, and what a great addition just to the back offices. I mean, if you want a guy who's got his pulse on Miami-Dade football and who every single Miami-Dade coach respects and admires, this is the guy. So huge. I can't overstate how important it was to get him on board. Just helping out, almost being an ambassador for the new coaches in Dade, because this program has been so hurt in the inner city and in Dade County in general by some of the actions of coaches not offering, perceived top guys from other colleges that other colleges wanted, and just a lot of powerful people, and by powerful people I mean coaches who sort of talk a lot publicly and otherwise. They had it with Miami. They vowed to never send their kids to Miami ever again, and that's going to change now. I think this is a different situation where they can sort of mollify some of these guys and really stack the local talent that they want, legitimately get them.
Well, one of the kids that went to Miami is Wesley Bassant. So we have an interview with Wesley. We talked to him about NIL. We talked to him about the linebacker battle and different things going on with him. So that's on the website today. All right, moving on to some other things that we've got going. Obviously, we continue our rollout of stories on the 2023 recruits. We've told you how active Miami is in 2023 recruiting, and obviously that's the case. And one of the stories that we have today is on an offensive tackle from Roman Catholic High School in Philadelphia by the name of Austin Ramsey. And Matt, he's been offered by the Canes. He's planning a UM visit. He's part of the whole plethora of offensive linemen that Alex Mirabal is recruiting. and the net just keeps getting wider and wider, especially at the offensive line position.
Here's a general rule that I think you're going to see under the new coaches. If Penn State and Boston College have offered an offensive lineman, Miami's either already offered or will be offering, because this is the kind of offensive lineman Miami wants now. They're not looking for these like sort of smaller athletic guys anymore. They want those pounding, straight ahead guys that BC's offensive line and Penn State's offensive line are known for. This is sort of the new formula. And guess what? Austin Ramsey has an offer from both those schools. And I think it's going to pay dividends if Miami can land some of these guys. The challenge with the offensive line, and it's a coincidence that we ran this story at the same time as we ran a story with a local kid who wants to be a Hurricane, because the dichotomy is the out-of-state kids are the ones that, as much as people want to say they use a national brand, and it's a tarnished national brand. The out-of-state kids don't necessarily understand who Mario Cristobal is and what he wants to do and what he is doing already at Miami. They have to come down and see it for themselves. And that's going to be a process that'll happen between March and June for the most part, because once the season hits, it's almost too late. July's a dead period. Your season hits, kids' season hits in August. It's hard for them to take visits except for a game. And the coaches are so busy. So this is a March to June deal. So March to June, it's going to be crazy time at the University of Miami. And this is one of the kids who will visit. There's going to be a ridiculous amount of visitors from out of state. And they have to all be sold on this to really make a dent and grab maybe 5 to 10 of these top out-of-state kids to complement the in-state kids. And the other story, which I'm sure you're going to bring up, is the Raquan Atkins kid, which is the other story on the site this morning. And not to steal your thunder, but the interesting story to me isn't that he wants to commit to Miami and that he's waiting on an affirmative nod from Kevin Steele, which I'm not sure he's going to get, quite honestly, because he's a smaller kid. He's 5'10", 165, and that may not quite be what Kevin Steele wants in a cornerback that he's going to take an early commitment from. But the point is, if you're a fan of Miami and you've been following recruiting for a long time, right? This used to be the norm. I covered this team when every kid from down here wanted to commit to Miami and was just waiting on the offer. How many stories have you seen us write in the last 5 years where there's a kid like Raquan Atkins who has offers from Pitt and other decent schools that just says, I want to be a Hurricane? They're so few and far between. It's just, if it's the stock market, I don't know if I can do this correctly on screen, but if the stock market would look like this, it's just one of those downward trends where the price of the stock keeps going down. And now I think you're going to start to see it come back up again, where kids want to stay home, and not all of them are going to have a chance to stay home. It used to be in the old days, there would be 10 kids that were high quality kids who they just didn't have room for. And they'd say, I'm sorry, we just can't offer you. There's not a spot for you. And I think that's going to happen again. But when's the last time you saw this happen, where kids are begging to get in the class and they got to just wait and see if they can get in or not and get a spot?
Atkins does have some offers from schools like Pitt and a few others kind of at that level. And that is no guarantee he's going to get one from Miami. In fact, I would bet he won't get one from Miami, because I think there's new sheriffs in town now, and Miami's going to be reaching higher in recruiting, unfortunately, for Raquan Adams than himself. So I'll be surprised if he gets the offer. I think that Miami will be fishing in those deeper seas.
Yeah, well, what's also great is that DVD's talk to him every week. They don't just not talk to a kid because they don't want him right now. You keep talking to him. He had 11 interceptions. Who knows if he's going to grow an inch and 15 pounds? Good for them to keep talking to this kid, regardless. And they're not going to lose contact with him, even if Kevin Steele says no. They'll stay in contact. That's what the new staff does.
Yeah.
I will be your shield in the fiercest battle. I'll defend you.
Yeah.
Hey, my name is Cleveland Reed, and I play offensive line, and my job is to protect. I protect my family with Life Wallet. How about you?
Of course I got Life Wallet. It's the best way to protect my family.
Long as we go together, we'll die whenever. Be a light, couldn't let the darkness try you ever. Truth in my word, you I lie to never.
To protect you and your family, get Life Wallet now.
Life Wallet. Saving time, saving lives.
All right, so other things on the website today. Baseball season starts Friday, Matt. And so we've got a look at the Canes pitching rotation, which Coach Gino DeMari has set, and a look at a lot of the new faces that are on the Canes baseball team this year. And when you talk to anybody around the baseball program, and Gino, the players, Matt, I think you get the impression that they think that they need to step up their game quite a bit and have a little more successful season this year. And they're trying to set a goal of making the College World Series.
Yeah, I think their only losses will be to Texas A&M and to Clemson, and that's it. I think. Oh wait, we're talking about baseball. Wait, you want to talk about baseball? You think the fans?
I'm thinking to myself, like, what is he talking about?
You think the fans watching our show want us to talk about baseball? Yeah, I think. Look, the baseball team has struggled. I think there's going to be some issues with the hitting. I think the pitching is going to be very good. I think the hitting will find its stride maybe mid-season. Yesterday, I was watching some of the hitters in the batting cage. Man, they, you can't tell really from the batting cage, but it's a machine throwing really hard straight ahead. These are straight pitches, obviously off a machine. They just didn't look so good. The kids I saw maybe 10 kids hitting, and I've coached baseball. I sort of know what it should look like. I've been at a lot of Miami practices and watched them in the cages. It's going to be a process for the baseball team. They got a few really good hitters, but they've got a lot of kids that transferred in. They got a lot of kids that are freshmen or haven't really seen ACC pitching. You're coming right out of high school. Think about the difference between hitting in high school and hitting versus ACC competition. Now, the good news is they've been able to hit off a pretty good pitching staff in the scrimmages at UM. But I foresee a lot of 5-2, 4-3 sort of games for Miami, at least in the first half of the year, until the hitters sort of really get their groove and get a sense for what they're all about. The good news is you're starting with Towson. It's not a very good team, so Miami should start in pretty good shape.
Well, the football purists that are watching the show are going to be a little up in arms this morning because we also have a couple stories on basketball. You can't ignore basketball because of what they're doing and the stakes of every one of these games that are remaining on the schedule. And it starts tonight at Louisville, a middle-of-the-pack ACC team that's having a disappointing season, but they've got good players. And Miami's trying to keep the momentum going and stay in the regular season ACC race. So road game at Louisville, obviously a real big deal. And the basketball team is celebrating its first sweep of North Carolina teams, believe it or not. I mean, think about how amazing that is, and people are, they don't want to believe that this is all happening this year. But Miami basketball is a real team. And when you go through a season and you've beaten Duke and Carolina and Wake Forest and these other teams in North Carolina, they won 2 games against a good Wake Forest team. I mean, swept the state of North Carolina. That is an amazing accomplishment. And I hope it ends well. And by some miracle, they can put a run together here at the end of the year and win the ACC regular season title. Because if they finish tied with Duke, they win the tiebreaker. And how cool would that be in Coach K's final season for Coach L to finish on top of the ACC, Matt?
It's funny. So what are they? I guess 5-0. I didn't really look. Jim did all the research. All the credit to Jim Martz for the story. But the funny thing is, to me, is let's say Miami had lost to FAU, which they barely escaped with that game, right? Miami would be 1-4 in the state of Florida, with Florida A&M the only win, and they would have been 5-0 against these top North Carolina schools. Like that's a weird statistic, right? If that had happened, they remember they eked out that FAU win on that last second shot by Isaiah Wong, which was a great play. So it's just sort of funny to think about it that way. But yeah, if you're beating North Carolina and Wake Forest and NC State and Duke, you're doing something right, And I find it funny every time Jim Larrañaga wins a big game, someone posts on our message board, "Fire Larrañaga," right? Because in the past, when he lost too many games, and it's been a few years where they struggled, people would be like, "Fire Larrañaga, he's too old, he doesn't know what he's doing," So now that people are having some fun with those guys, as Miami's having a really good season.
Well, in the meantime, you look at the ACC standings, and these North Carolina teams are holding 3 of the top 5 spots. Duke's tied for first place with Notre Dame. Then there's Miami, and then after that, there's North Carolina and Wake Forest. So it's not like these North Carolina teams aren't good teams that Miami's beaten this year. They are good teams, and it's time to give Larrañaga and his staff credit for what they're accomplishing this season. So that's going to do it for today. Remember the big basketball game tonight at Louisville. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We thank you for joining us once again on Good Morning CaneSport, and we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.